Begin the current Daf Mesech's Bava Metzia Daf Tzadi Zayin. Begin 3 lines down at the top of the Amud, where the Gemara continues in the halacha that we're discussing for the previous Daf, as the title of the parak Ashelis Apara. Some bar something is Chayv and Einzin. Then we said that there's we know the heter of Ba'al of Yomai that we were speaking about, that your pater, the Torah talks about it. Then the Gemara said a svara. The Gemara said there's another case where even the shayil is going to be pater because of Mesa Machmas Malacha. We said the guy didn't borrow the animal to keep it locked in the cage. He borrowed it to use it. If it dies because of the action that you know he's going to borrow it for that is going to be put. And the Gemara continues qualifying that halacha. So another important in terms of concept that we're going to speak about in today's daf is in the next Mishnah. We're going to talk about 3 different cases of that a guy borrowed and he rented, and we're not sure exactly which one was the one that it happened to. And that involves the classic Talmudic machlekes regarding Bari V'Shema. When someone makes a definite claim and someone makes a doubtful claim, do you say Bari Adif, or do you say that no, Uki Mumma Moina B'Cheskes Mari, that the guy who was holding onto the money, you say Hamitz Mechaber V'Laraya, and you wouldn't remove it out of suffix. So we begin the current daf Tzadi Zayin, 3 lines down. Says the Gemara, who gaved, a certain person, the shol davla michaver, he borrowed a bucket from his friend. It's far broke. Also coming to a pub, came from the pub. Amalei said to him, I see Sahadi, you got to bring witnesses. Isn't this what we said in the previous daf? So they show on this bay that you didn't deviate, didn't do anything abnormal with it. Vifter, then you'll be exempt, because this is what's called Mesa Machmas Malacha. You're using the pitcher in the regular way. If you did something abnormal, so that's not Mesa Machmas Malacha. You did something that caused it to break. The regular utility, even a shell would be potter. Similarly, the Gemara continues with another case. Who gavra, the shol shunner mechavre, someone borrowed a cat from his friend. Now, the mice ganged up against the mouse and killed the mouse. So Yosef Rav Ashi was sitting and was asking the following question. What? Oh, yeah, the Olam Hafach. Right, it's actually that's actually part of the question. Kihai gavna mai. Such a case, what would the halacha be? What's the question? Would you say kimesa machmas malacha dami? The arbit, the cat is supposed to eat up the mice. So if the cat gets injured in its job, so then the shayl should be pater. Oy or maybe not. What's the maybe not? So Taisus actually says in the Masechta Gavna, Taisus wonders what's the question. Of course, it's literally mesa machmas malacha. That's what the cat is for. You borrow the cat to eat up the mice. Says Taisus. The question is, would it be considered being mashana, doing something abnormal, that you brought it to the place where there were so many mice? Meaning you don't have to protect a cat that the mice don't kill it, but you brought it to the place where all these mice. That's similar to what we said in the previous stuff, that although you're not responsible for wild animals, but you brought it if you brought it to a place and you said you taunted the bandits, you brought it to that place, maybe that would be considered as a liability. That's the Gemara's question. So Ravashi says, Gavra, if you have a man, the Nashi Katluvu, a little misogynist over here, that women killed the guy, meaning the guy should not have fell into the hands of the women. There's no judgment, there's no justice, meaning we shouldn't expect a guy to be taken down by a bunch of women. And that's the same thing over here, where the cat, we should not have assumed that he's going to be taken down by a bunch of mice. If that happens, you're going to be pater, because you should not have entertained that such a thing would happen. There was a different version, that achal achbari tuva, that what actually happened was that the cat ate too many mice. He got excited over here, v'chabel umis, and he got overheated and he died. So Yosef Rashi b'kama'ayim, but Rav Ashi was saying he was looking into this. Kagav namai, such a case, what would the halacha be? Rav Ashi says, gavri de nashi katluah. If you have a guy that women killed him, but again, it's similar, not that the women ganged up on him, and that we shouldn't expect that, but if he had many acts of intimacy, and he overdid it, and he died, so women killed him, so to speak, in that way, similar to where the mice killed him in that way, where he overdid it, there's no judgment on that. In other words, you should not have entertained that this should happen. If it did, then again, it will be qualified in the Mesa Machmas Malacha, and the show is going to be pater. Amar Rava. Rava says, continue on this theme about the halacha of Sheila B'Bailim, of the tour that you're exempt if at the time that you borrowed it, also the owner is working for you. So the Rava says a chap. It says, if someone wants to borrow something and be exempt, which we know Sheila is chayv on everything. If he wants to get off the hook totally, he should do like this. Namely, he should tell him, Ashkin Maya, give me a drink of water when I'm taking this bowl that I'm borrowing from you. So you're borrowing the guy's basketball, and at the same moment, the guy who owns the basketball is giving you a cup of water to drink. That's it. If anything happens to the basketball, you're going to be potter because that's sheila b'vaylam. It says the Gemara, but if the guy who's lending it to you is smart, name a he should tell him, shal bereisha, not so fast. First borrow the basketball, and then after you borrowed it, then I'll give you a cup of water to drink. So that's not going to qualify for sheila b'vaylam. Now, Amar Rava says a bunch of type of people, at the Shita Mugabetza explains, is actually going to refer to everyone in town. If you have a makri dardaki, if you have a school teacher, shasala, if you have someone who plants vineyards all around town for a certain percentage of the profits, or tabacho, or the town butcher, or bumana, or if you have the town bloodletter, or sabamasa, or the town barber, kulu, on all of them, when they're in the middle of doing their job, when they're in the workday, it's like if someone else borrows an animal from them, let's say at the time that they're working when the barbershop is open and the animal dies, no matter who borrows it, says the Shita, since these people work for everybody in town, it's like he's doing work for everyone when he's working, and hence if anybody borrows anything from him during the workday, they're going to be part. It's going to be considered as sheila b'vaylam. Right. So it sounds like from the you have to check. Do they bring down on the bottom anything? They bring down on the bottom.
Other than that, how do you explain it? Probably was the barber of the town. He got a salary. Now he's
Rabbi, I'm saying that's could be it's a.
Because if you're telling me that somebody goes to the barber and that's the barber is all year round now, it's open for town, it's open for you pay.
Right. They probably say, what do they say? Right. So Al Kapanim, either way, definitely if you'd be doing work for someone, but that's what it seems like it's. Okay. So that definitely would be considered as anyone who borrows from him would be kasheil b'bailim dami. Now Amalei Rabban Rava, the Rabbanan, meaning those who were from the Beis Medrash of Rava, said to Rava, Shalom Mar, our teacher is lent to us for our work, which is to teach us Torah. So that you sit and teach us Torah all day. In other words, they were saying, if we borrow something from you and it dies, we're going to be pater because you work for us. So this bothered Rava. Amalu, he said to them, the Rebbe says, you want to take away my money? Is that what it is? That you borrow something from me that you're not going to be chayiv? Adrabah, to the contrary, atun shilton li. You guys are lent to me for the work that I'm doing. The ilu ana, because when I want to start another mesechta, if I want to be ahead by a daf, that I shouldn't forget it. I could take you from one mesechta to another one. You can't stop me. So you can't stop me, and therefore he was saying to the contrary, you guys are lent to me. If I borrow from you, then I'm going to be pater. Which Gemara says, no, it's actually not like either one of them. He's lent to them, the Malamed, the Rebbe, the Maggid Shir, he's lent to them on the day of Kala, which is, they used to darshan before the Yom Tov and the halachas of the Yom Tov. That he can't switch that topic. That has to be as it is. And on that day, when he's teaching, if anyone borrows from him, so then he's considered lent to them. But the people of the Shir, they are lent to the Maggid Shir. On the rest of the time, he could switch it, whatever. But actually, usually Daf Yomi is probably the same as Yom the Kala. So it seemed like the Olam wins, and it would be considered Mashalahem. So the Gemara brings a story, continuing on this theme. Merema Bar Chanina, Oiger Kadnayasa, he leased a mule to Bechazoi. Nafik Lidluye to Una Bahadayu. He went out to help them lift the loads onto the mule. What happened later was Pashuba. These borrowers, these renters were negligent, umis, and the animal died. So also coming to the Rabbi, they came from the Rabbi. Chayvinu, he said, you guys are liable, you guys were negligent, you guys got to pay for this rental mule that you guys damaged. Amrle Rabban Rabba. So the rabbi said, the Rabba, vos haste, Shia bebailam he. Even if it's negligent, it was with the owner because he helped them the moment that they rented the mule. He went to help them load it up. So that's bebailam. So Ichsef, he was ashamed, he was embarrassed that how he gave a wrong psak. At the end it was revealed that actually the lamesa to unhudinafik. He actually didn't help them load it up. He went to make sure that you guys don't load it up is a maximum weight of this animal, and he went to make sure that that it was not more than that. So it was not bebailam. But the Gemara asks on the story and says, wait a second, this story only makes sense according to the one that said pshi bebailam pater. That even as you remember, we had this machlekes on Daf Pei Aleph and that Tzadi Hey, that if you negligent, even negligence bebailam would be pater. Therefore, he was embarrassed. But according to the one that says why was Rav Papa? Why was he embarrassed? Why was Rav embarrassed? If you're chayiv on pshi b'baylim? Says Gemara, no, that's not the story. It's not that they were negligent. It was stolen from them. And actually, it died in the normal way in the house of the Ganav, which Taisa explains you don't need to say that. That's really irrelevant. It's just explaining how they made the mistake that it died through negligence because it ultimately ended up dying. But really the main point is that it was stolen. And stealing your pater b'baylim. Because we said that the parasha of Shem Esachar is connected with a vav to the parasha of the Shal. That everyone agrees your pater b'baylim. They came in from the Rava and he was mechayiv them because even if the Malach HaMavis would have left it alone, it's still in the house of the Ganav, as the Gemara says, the moment it's stolen, so the Chai B'Tashlumin. On Varamali Rabban Rava, they said, but Geneva, this Geneva that you're Mechayv, the renters for that was stolen from them, B'Bailam when they rented it, the moment that they rented it, when they went into their possession, he was with them at the time, where therefore they should be pater. So Echsev, he was embarrassed. Mil said, the end was revealed, the Mesa to know that Nafik actually was not B'Bailam. The owner did not help them load it up. He was making sure they didn't overdo the packaging, and therefore that's why it was a correct psak of Rava that they're going to be chayav. Now, continue to look at the next Mishnah, continue on this theme of the Dalet Shemim that we were speaking about, which the Mishnah tells us of Hashoyles Hapara. Now, someone borrowed a cow, but we're going to give three different cases that Taisa explains, which is we'll see later on the Gemara. What's the relevancy of all three cases? The chiddush of what's called zu avzu katani. We're saying bigger chidushim in this case, as we'll explain the Gemara. But you have like this case number one: the shala chatzi yom b'sachar chatzi yom. This one cow was half day alone, half day rental. So let's say till 12 o'clock it's lent for you, but after that you got to pay for the rental. Case number two. He borrowed it for one day, and then he rented it for the following day. In case number three, is sachar achaz v'shalach. It's actually two different cows. He rented one, and he borrowed one. Okay. Now, Mesa, the cow died. Now, there's three cases, so we're going to explain all three cases, as Rashi points out. Hamashal Oimer, this is going on the case of the last case we said, that he rented one, and he borrowed one. The owner is saying, Shula Mesa. It's the loaned one that died, which is obviously significant because a loaned one you're chayiv, a rented one you're pater if it dies. Okay. Now, regarding the case of when he borrowed one, the same one, but for today he borrowed it and for tomorrow he rented it, he's saying the day that it was lent is when it died, as it gets into Tamid Beis. And case number three is going on the case of he borrowed it for half a day and rented it for half a day. He's saying it was during the timing when it was loaned that it died. So again, it's really one case. We're just saying those three cases where the owner is saying that it died during the time of the loan, and the renter is saying, says, I don't know, I have no clue when it died or which one died. Chayiv, the borrower / renter is going to be liable to pay because of the principle of bari v'shema, bari adav. One guy is definite. the owner is definite, and the defendant, the renter is not sure. So a bari is adif. Case number 2. Let's say the other way around. The renter is saying, it was the rented one that died. Or the other case, the day that it was rented it died. Or the other case, at the time of when the rented it died, which is again going backwards as we said for the 3 cases. And the owner says, I have no clue. Pater, he's going to be pater because here he's a bari and the owner is a shema. Which Tais discusses why would you have to say it already. So the first case, Al Kapanim. Then case number 3 is Ze'oy Mishu'ula. If the owner says it was the lone one that died, and in this case the renter says Ze'oy Mischuri says no, it was the rented one. In the first 2 cases, you had one guy being definite, the one guy saying I don't know. Here they're both saying I know for sure. It's like what I'm saying. So it says the Mishnah Yishava HaSeicher Sheskura Mesa. The renter swears that it was the rented one that died, and he's going to be pater. Which Gemara later on Daf Tzaddik Chesed Mebei is going to ask what's called Masha Tanu Lehaydalai. Where do we find such a shvua? He's claiming one thing, he's saying something else. You don't usually swear on something that you're not admitting to at all. So the Gemara will address that. And now the case number 4 is any idea. Let's say each one says I don't know which one it was. So then halach is yachleiku. Then they divided because of the halachic opinion, as we'll see on the next daf. Like Simchas holds, when you have money that we're doubtful, nobody knows. So then you divide it, and he'll have to pay half the amount. But one thing says the Gemara from the first halacha that we said, which the owner is claiming it was the loaned one, and the renter says I don't know, and we said he's going to be chayiv. Shamim enough. From this we learned that mana libiyatcha. If let's say the owner says, someone says you have $100 that I lent you that you owe me. And the guy says, I have no clue. I borrowed $100. I have no clue. Chayiv is going to be chayiv. That seems to be exactly what we're saying in our Mishnah, where the mashal says it was the loaned one. And the say, I don't know. That is chayiv. Let's say this is a reputation of Rav Nachman, because then we learned there's a machlekes. The guy walks over to the guy, says, you owe me $100. And the guy says, I don't know. They say, okay, you're chayiv, because bari b'shem and bari adav. The guy is a definite claim, you're not sure. A definite claim is definitely better. Rav Nachman and Yechon Amri, they say no pater, that he's going to be pater because of the halachic principle of ukim b'mayna b'cheskes mari. We say, look, the money that this guy has, he has a chazaka that it's his. We don't remove it out of a doubt. So even though the guy is making a definite claim, but you can't remove it just with a definite claim. So therefore, you're going to be pater. Seemingly, our Mishnah seems to contradict Rav Nachman because it says that the bari would be able to collect. Says the Gemara, not necessarily the case. Because it's Kadam Rav Nachman, like Rav Nachman says elsewhere, which the Gemara on the side brings that from the Rashash, we don't know where exactly this teaching is brought elsewhere, that's the primary teaching, but it's talking about Kugun Shesh Esik Shvu B'Neim, we're talking about where there is already an engagement of an oath between them. So Hachanami will say the same thing that like Rav Nachman says there, we'll say for our Mishnah, Kugun Shesh Esik Shvu B'Neim. We're talking about where the defendant is obligated in an oath anyways for the claim of the claimant, which he cannot swear now that he doesn't know because he says he doesn't know, and that's why he's going to have to pay. As the Gemara explains, what does this mean that there's an engagement of a shvua that he has to swear for? Could the Rava, like Rava says, as Rava says, if someone says there's $100 that I have by you, the defendant says, no, it's not $100 I owe you. I owe you 50. So that's what's called Moedim Mixes. He admits to part of the claim, and now he's chayav shvua on the rest. The problem is, Vashar, he's not denying the rest. The rest he says, in Yedei, I don't know. Since he can't swear because he says I don't know, halacha is mishalim. He has to pay. This is the halachic principle of a called mishalim. If you can't swear, you have to pay. So our Gemara on the next daf is going to explain the halacha of our Mishnah is also talking about where you're chayiv in the shvur, you have an asik shvur already. Now you're right. Generally saying in Yedei would not be mechayiv you. I don't know. Bar B'Shem is not bar yadav. Why in our Mishnah in the first case, if the mashal says I know that it was the borrowed one, and you don't know, and we see he has to pay. That's because there is a shvua that's already imposed, which the Gemara is going to explain on the next daf. Where do we see this shvuah? And now once this shvuah, and you can't swear anymore, now you're going to have to pay. Thank you to any time for hosting us.